Hello there and welcome to another video of Des Illustrates. Today we are looking at this new painting of mine, the Nautilus, but also at the paint set that was made by Kris from KMH Watercolors with a paint set of a similar name, also called the Nautilus. And how this came to be is that Kris asked me if I wanted to make a curated watercolor set together with them. I was really honored to get this request, so of course I said yes, that would be amazing. And that's how we are where we are today. In the time span of a couple of weeks, I think, maybe longer. I'm not sure anymore, but we pitched some ideas back and forth, and colors that we loved, subjects that we thought would be nice, themes to build the palette around, and that would also fit colors that we both loved a lot. And I think we managed to do that really well. The set contains in total 6 colors, and 3 of them are shimmers and 3 of them are mattes. I think that's a really nice balance for a set like this. And like the name of the palette says, the Nautilus, it's built around deep sea, and not only around deep sea as in animals or creatures, but we really like the name together because Nautilus also speaks of the tale of the Nautilus, which is it's also an old book that you can read, this fantasy story of Jules Verne, and in the 1800s he wrote a couple of books, or many books I believe, I'm not entirely sure, but one of those was about a Captain Nemo, which was captain of a submarine, and in the story there also are all these creatures that are not real. They are mythical creatures, and for that double meaning of the name, we really liked this name for the palette because it gives it a lot of character, and it also gives it a lot of depth that you can completely make it your own, no matter what your style is or no matter what you like to paint. This palette and the names that it has can be really inspiring for you. So that's really something that we really liked. And then the last thing about this palette that we put together, it's gonna be live today as I'm recording this voiceover, and also as I'm posting this video in when I'm done with this. The palette will go live for me in 40 minutes from now. I know this video is a bit late for that. I was planning to have it up at least yesterday, but I wasn't feeling too well. I'm still not 100%, and that will take a little bit again. But I just have worked over this video over 2 weeks, and I really wanted to put it up before the launch, so you guys still had a chance to grab one of the palettes that is gonna come in the shop. I will leave links down below in the description box for you guys to find the shop, also the name and the Instagram and everything, so you guys, if you want to, you can check it out. And I hope that you enjoyed seeing this video where I paint a Nautilus. This is a typical creature that does live in the deep sea. It also comes up more to the surface of the sea, and what I find most fascinating about these creatures is that they already were around millions of years ago on this earth, and they were in much more variety back then. These days there are only a few with minor differences, but back then you had a lot of different species, and you can also find fossils of them, of their shells mostly. So that's something that I myself find really fascinating. Then now a bit more about the painting itself. For the leaves I used two colors mostly, and that is Kelpie, and the other one I find a bit hard to pronounce, but it's Lophidia. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's a Latin name for another deep sea species. And those two is the main thing that I used for the leaves of this painting, that I tried to mimic a bit like kelp. And the reason that I chose those two colors mainly is because I wanted to make the leaves shimmer and to make the Nautilus itself be matte, so that it had a double sense of depth, that if you would hold the painting a bit in the light of you, or you won't look at it from a different angle, that it would look partly shimmering and partly matte, so it added a bit more interest to the painting, and I think that it worked out really well. I really like how that looks. Then for the Nautilus himself, I used Siren Song watered down as a base for the little cap on its head, and also I mixed it with both Nymph and Typhon to make a bit of grayish color for the shell, for the first layer as a base. And then in the shadows of the shell of the Nautilus, of the living one, I used Typhon, and to make some parts of that even darker, I mixed in a bit of Siren Song, because that gave it even more depth. Then for the shell of the Nautilus, where the kelp is growing out, I used Calypso. What I first did was water it down a lot and paint the whole shell with a really fake intention of where the stripes of the shell were going. And then I went in for a second layer where I put in the stripes a bit more dark. And for the line work that I did around the Nautilus, both the shell as the living one, I used Typhon again, and then I varied how dark it was in different places. That's the halfway point of the painting, where I blocked in everything and I started really looking at the places where I wanted more texture and where I wanted the pattern of the shells to be more pronounced, and which colors I wanted to jump out more of this painting. It was really different to work with this limited palette. You have 6 colors and it's a set amount. It's a set that's already pre-made, so you have that 6 colors to make what you want to make with it, and that's a bit different than I normally approach my paintings, but I really liked doing it this way instead of what I normally do. I use a lot of colors in almost all of my paintings, and to make mostly little variations on the main colors that I use, and I didn't have that here. But by painting with a limited set of colors, I did discover that I really like the unity that it created in this piece. So it is something that I plan on exploring more, do limited paint sets paintings. And what I did next for the shell, the top shell on the top of its head, was also use Siren Song, but I mixed different amounts of Typhon in it, and that way I created a bit of variation over the whole shell, and also I left the previous layer shining through in various places to make the pattern that it has on this piece of shell on its head. For the more dark stroke on the bottom and also the pattern on the main shell, I mostly used pure Siren Song. For all the shadows in between the Nautilus, it's, I want to say little arms, but it's like tentacles. But I used Siren Song and Typhon in different mixes again, where at some places the one was a bit stronger than the other, but also where there was more water in it in one place than the other. This way I tried to show the depth in this place and also around its eye and beneath all the tentacles where the shell is starting. I also ended up using some Siren Song in the bottom shell for the pattern. I mixed it there with a bit of Calypso and also let it go over in each other wet in wet, and that way it made the pattern a bit more variating. And Siren Song didn't have shine in it, and that's why I mixed it for the bottom shell with Calypso, because next to the leaves I also decided to make the bottom shell shiny to give it a bit of a look like it was starting to become stone or fossilize. So yeah, I really like to play with that. And what I also ended up doing was surrounding the places where I left the first layer shine through on the head of the Nautilus with some darker Siren Song. The reason that I did this was to make the pattern more pronounced, because it was also in the various pictures that I saw online. I couldn't really use a single picture that I could use like it was, so I grabbed a lot of them and put it together myself. This painting turned out really different than I usually do, mostly because of I limited myself in the amount of colors that I used, but I am really happy with it. And like I said earlier, I do want to do more paintings like this. Here we also see some of the or all of the swatches in more close up. I didn't add any swatching videos to this video because it already is becoming a very long video. I had a lot of footage and I had to speed up a lot of stuff, and I also had to leave some of it out because otherwise this one would have been way too long. But if you see the close-ups, then I must say that Typhon might be my favorite of all 6 of these colors. It has a really subtle granulation, separation, and a more pronounced granulation, which I both really love. And then we have Siren Song and Calypso. Siren Song is a really deep, moody red, and we all know I love moody colors. We have Calypso, which is more of a shiny silver. Kelpie, which is also a really beautiful blue with a gold shimmer in it. Lopvidea, which is a really vibrant green, but just the right tone, with a green mica in it also. And Nymph is this color that's in between green and blue, but it has a beautiful subtle separation in it of blue and green, and also that granulation that I love so much. As we have already seen in previous videos that I did of this brand of paints of my dear friend Kris, I absolutely love these. That's a real opinion and not just because they are my friends. And I'm just absolutely in love with this set, and I wanna put out that even though this set was done by us together, as in we thought of the colors together, all of the hard work and the mulling and the making the colors actually was done by Kris, and they did an absolutely amazing job. And now we already have come to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed watching this, and I hope you love the colors just as much as I do. The Etsy shop is going live as I am rounding up this voiceover, so if you watching this after it went up, then I highly recommend going to the shop as fast as possible if you are interested. And I have no idea how fast the sets will go, but I think they're absolutely stunning, so I expect them to not take too long. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!